Hey guys, Arcade Adam back with another video, and in this one, welcome to part 3 and the completion of the Viewlix Bartop build. And in editing this video just now, I realized I have over an hour of footage of just me wiring up this control panel. I don't know how interesting that is to you guys, because it's like the same button times 8. Actually, times 12 because of the two side buttons. Anyway, I'm going to do a montage, and we're going to speed this up a bit. And I will be back with you guys when we're finished with the control panel to talk about this awesome coin ops build, how it works, and more importantly, how I configured the buttons using one of those cheapo zero delay controllers. So stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Fight!
Okay guys, I'm back. That was a couple hours worth of work for me, but just a couple minutes for you. I went into detail on part 2 of this video if you're wondering how those LED buttons kind of went together, but right now I wanted to slow it down and show you guys the zero delay controller I'm using. These are those cheap ones available on Amazon, AliExpress, all over the place. They're like 10 or 15 bucks per, maybe less if you know where to shop. But basically on the backs, on most of them I've seen, they're numbered. So K1, 2, 3, that's your buttons. And then you've got L1, R2, that kind of thing. So it's kind of numbered and laid out like a traditional Xbox controller. They are not X input, but they are D input. So I just wanted to point that out and show you guys what I'm working with. So I'm going to continue to speed this back up while I configure the zero delay controller and get that plugged in. And then I will revisit how I'm getting that to work. If you want to do this yourselves, I highly recommend you spend the extra money and get an X input controller. The CoinOps build is pre-configured for Xbox controllers. So pull one apart, pull a wired controller apart and hack the PCB. Or on Amazon, I'll have to find it. I'll link it in the description. They have X input, basically zero delay like Chinese control boards like this. They're slightly more expensive. I think they're $20 or $30 a piece, but I'll try to find those and link those in the description. See you guys when I'm done wiring up this controller. Alright guys, thanks for sticking with me. Bit of a struggle there. You saw that control panel really took me for a spin there. This is a nice cabinet and all, but you better damn well be sure to plan out your button config, placement I should say. The switches all need to be facing a certain way, kind of left to right on a 45-degree angle, and those bottom start and coin buttons need to be completely flat. There is no tolerances in there, and I kind of made my own bed with this one because I wanted RGB buttons, and sometimes you just got to live and die by the RGB buttons. You see the wiring in there is 8 times what it should be, and you just don't have a lot of room, so something's got to give. I could not get enough room in there to wire the bottom 2 buttons for LEDs without fear of them grounding out on something. You know, the style of button that I went with, those LED lamp holders, has those grounding, or terminals I should say, not grounding, but just terminals on both sides, and when the panel of the control panel comes down, I just fear there's too much probability of them contacting each other, and you just don't want voltage where there shouldn't be none. So bottom buttons will not be lit, top buttons are lit, pinball side buttons are lit. I think it looks good. Got that controller in there, just testing some stuff out. I've got the PC in the back just loose. We're about to put the bezel on, and we're going to configure the PC, and oh man, stay tuned for wiring this thing up for power. I'm going to put a power strip in it and a power socket, and I caught Amazon doing some dirty. Their Chinese power strips have a grounding protected light on them, and I'm not an electrician. It's something I'll go over a little later, but I kind of found them having to do some false advertising. So stay tuned for that one. I'll see you guys on the flip. Okay guys, I wanted to slow it down here for a minute because I want to explain what I'm doing. I'll come back to the power situation in a second, I promise. But so I'm configuring this yellow button in the back, and what I'm doing is this is going to be the traditional PC power button. So when you turn your computer on, momentary switch, powers on, momentary switch again, powers off. That's what that yellow button's going to be. So I'm going to run the wires up to the Intel small form factor motherboard, which has a built-in button. It's like a tiny little momentary switch on there. I'm going to leave that on the board, and I'm going to solder these two leads right onto the button itself. So it's kind of going to have two buttons because the original will still work, and this yellow one that's accessible on the back of the machine will also work to turn the machine on and off. So it'll just kind of give people two ways to quickly, turn the machine on independent of the power strip. So you could have the speakers and the lights going, but the computer's off kind of thing. Also, it's hard to get a computer to consistently turn on with the rest of the machine if you don't buy a specific smart power strip. So this kind of bypasses that too. So if you have any questions about this, definitely hit me up in the comments down below, and I'll try to answer as much as possible. But it's a pretty simple process, and I hope it makes sense. I actually kind of lost some footage of me actually soldering the wires, but I'll do a close-up of where I put them on there and what I'm actually doing. Alright guys, it's time for the big boy electricity. This is the part where I get legal. I am not an electrician. This is not a guide. If you choose to follow along in my videos, you do so at your own risk, especially if that diagram doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever. It's not the best diagram, but if you're confused, don't try this at home. But basically, we're going to take one of these power sockets that's got a lighted LED switch, and we're going to hardwire that Amazon power strip I was talking about right into the socket so we can plug in our arcade with a standard PC power cable. There's a spec name for those cables. I forget off the top of my head, but everybody's got one of those things lying around at some point. I like to use them for my arcades because it's easy. They come in 6-foot lengths usually. You can get them much longer, much shorter, and you can plug them in and carry them around your house, and it's no big deal. But what we're going to do here is, it's a little complicated if you've never done electrical. And like I said, just don't do this. Don't try this at home if you guys aren't comfortable with this stuff. This is mains voltage. If you touch this, there's a good chance you're going to get really hurt. So what I'm doing here is I'm twisting some wires together for the socket. I'm following that diagram. because basically most of these sockets have a 4-pin switch, but this one has a 3-pin, so basically I have to make a little jumper cable. That's why I'm twisting 2 whites together. I don't know if you noticed in the previous part of the video, the length of cable that I cut off the power strip is a great way to source some really nice gauge cable for these little jumper leads that you need for the back of the socket connector. So I always cut 5 or 6 inches off the cable, pull the sheath off, and then you've got a ground, a hot, and a neutral wire to make jumpers with. So that's what I do with that. So we're going to do that real quick. Another thing I'd like to mention with these connectors, the length of the cable is extremely important, especially when you're twisting 2 wires together. It gets a little dicey. Make sure you have the right size connector. You want to be able to get 2 wires in there. Like you just saw me do, I fan them out a little bit. Make sure you twist them together really, really tight, and then get a good crimp on that connection. I always pull real hard after I crimp these things to make sure, because if this thing flies off or bounces off or whatever in shipping or in transit, you've got a lot of voltage jumping around your system, and it could be pretty dangerous. So I like to make sure I'm as safe as possible when I do this stuff, because this is, like I said, it's high voltage. It's right out of your wall, so it's you wouldn't stick a paper clip or a key in your socket, because that's basically what this is. So be careful. I'm gonna fast forward this to the part where it gets interesting, where I find that Amazon's power strip advertises a protected ground, but I wired it that way. And it's not. So let's get to the interesting part.
Get ready.
Okay, me again, and I'd like to introduce you to my friend, the outlet tester. So basically, that thing, upside down. If that thing lights up the 2 lights on the bottom left, as you can see, it's correct. Yay, those 2. So that's what we're looking for. And we're going to plug that into our Amazon power strip. And then we're going to take the end of our power cord, and I'm going to put on my test bench power strip and hit the button. Turn that on. That lights. So that's great. And then, well, that's lit up, and there's a protection light on the power strip lit up. I'm going to take you in for a close-up. But basically, I've only got 1 light on my outlet tester, which is bad. You don't want to plug things in basically when you don't have a ground, and that's what it's telling us. So I'm going to take that out, double check, make sure what I read is correct, because I always test all my stuff. When I do, like I said, high voltage electric, safety first, check everything twice. You do not want to zap somebody accidentally. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Okay, so let's go in for a close-up. So we've got the protected light on the power strip, but only 1 light on our outlet tester, which is bad. Real bad. So upside down, but see, just a single light. So let's do a sanity check here. It's it's plugged into my bench power strip, and guess what? 2 lights. So what I found was the cable, like I said, the name escapes me, but there's a technical name for the PC power cable that you use to do this, felt kind of Chinese, kind of weak, kind of small gauge. Didn't feel right. So let's try replacing the cable and plug it in with a different one and see what happens. Look, there's 2 lights. So what that means is that cable's garbage, which is fine. So I'm going to tie a knot in it. I'm not going to throw it away because you can still use that cable for some, you know, scavenge some wires out of it. But let's go in for a close-up here. What's going on? So look, we got 2 lights on our outlet tester, and we still got a protected light on our power strip. So the power strip is a lie. So be careful out there, guys. I know it doesn't really matter, but if you had some sort of electrical issue with a component, electrical storm, something going on, that power strip is not going to protect you at all, or your gadgets. It'll most likely fry the heck out of your gadgets because it doesn't care what ground is, and if it has a fuse, I don't even know if it has a fuse. Doesn't matter. You get what you pay for. Amazon power strip, $6-7, that kind of thing. So here I am. I karate chopped that ground plug off that cable, so I remember to myself that wires, I'm guessing in that cable, there's only 2 wires instead of 3. Bad news. So let's move on. We've caught Amazon lying about their protection, and let's finish up this arcade.
to Jurassic Park. Land the ball in the nest.
Game pop.
Okay guys, I hope you had fun watching the video. I had a lot of fun building this project. It was a long one, but we got through it. And I think there's a lot of good work that went into this. We got these custom RGB buttons. We got the power strip figured out. It's a vertical build. It's the first time I worked with coin ops, which is really cool. Like, I had no idea it was so easy to use, relatively, but you guys are probably thinking, wait a minute, didn't he say he promised us that he was going to show us how to wire the buttons up or get them working with the software? And if you really want to know, come join me on the struggle bus, because this one was tough. Alright guys, I sped this up real fast because I had a ton of footage of this. I kind of struggled a little bit in the beginning, but the basic idea is what you see me doing here is I had the left and right flippers programmed to the bottom row of buttons, the left and right buttons. So If you're counting from top down, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top. I had buttons 5 and 8 on the bottom as left and right flipper, and what I'm doing is I'm soldering wires to those buttons, kind of splitting them, so there'll be like a T-junction. So when you press button 5 on the top, it's the same as pressing the left flipper on the side. And this is the only 2 buttons you need to do that, so basically you can choose your control method. You can use the top 5 and 8 buttons, or you can use the side left and right flipper buttons. So you don't have that many inputs on the one zero delay board, so this kind of avoids having to use a more expensive or more complicated board. And you can do that with a lot of other builds. You can double up things like that. And then on top of that, after that, CoinOps is designed to use an Xbox controller, just like I said in the beginning. So initially, I went in there and I started editing the CoinOps config file. And that's not the way to do it. What you really want to do is CoinOps comes with Joy to Key. And what I did was I modified the primary Joy to Key profile to work with FX3 as to what my zero delay controller is outputting. So what does that mean? Basically, you go into Joy to Key, button 5 is assigned to like gamepad button 6 or something, and Pinball FX3 doesn't care because it doesn't like D-input gamepads and it's not a keyboard. So what you need to do is the joystick button 5 gets assigned to left shift, which Pinball FX3 likes for its flipper button. So in FX3, you're essentially emulating a keyboard with a gamepad, which sounds confusing, but that's what you have to do unless you have X input. So do as I say, not as I do. Get an X input controller and be happy. This took a lot of time and effort, as you can see. I got FX3 working, and then the arcade controls kind of went sideways, and then I had to make sure Genesis was working, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, all that stuff. I had to go through all the config files and kind of move things around a little bit. Make your life easier, get an X input controller, and don't be like me. Don't waste hours at this just to get it to work properly. It's not impossible, but you just got to put in the time and effort. Like with anything with computers, as I always say, there's a million ways to get it done, and all it takes is time. But we'll get there eventually. So if you guys got any questions about that, if you got a CoinOps build and you're trying to get it to work, definitely put your questions in the comments section below. I'll try to help you guys out as much as I can. Like I said, this is my first build, so I'm definitely not an expert, but I eventually got there. I made my own Joy to Key profile, and if you need to look at those, I can make those available as well. But here's the config file for CoinOps. Just stay out of there. That's going to mess things up more than anything. So don't go in there and move things around. Just adapt your Joy to Key profile to the CoinOps controls, and you'll have a much better time. Thanks for watching, guys. Please share this. If you want to check out the charity auction for the St. Norbert Play for Her golf outing that this machine is being donated to, hey, if you even want to bid on it, the link will be in the description. And please share this video, like, subscribe, do all the usual things. It really helps the channel. I'm trying to grow this channel, and it really helps me out if you guys interact with it a lot. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.